what does it mean to have a scalable product? Well, if, going back to the boutique example, if you have a local store and you can only make $1,000 a day because of the logistics of your store, well, then you're not going to be able to make $1 million a year. If you are a dog walker and the most amount of money you can make is $600 a day if you work all day, you're not going to be able to make $1 million unless now you start developing operations and a team. But if you really want to build something scalable and avoid all the stress and all the potential headache, then you can start to look for something where you have a disproportionate difference between your revenue and your expenses, where now your expenses will grow as you grow, which is natural in any business, but you want your revenue to be able to grow disproportionately faster than your expenses. This is what you want your expenses and your revenue to look like. Where in the beginning, sure, you're going to have high expenses. You got to operate the business. You got to figure out how to get the business started. You got to have the support and everything to run the business. And you might not be making much revenue in the beginning. But as time goes on, as you can start making more money, you want to create a differentiation where now your revenue, this blue line, the revenue can grow significantly faster than your expenses. So as you make more money, well, you can make even bigger profits because your expenses aren't growing as fast as your revenue. Back after college, I started this real estate company. It was a real estate wholesaling company, and I was still new in entrepreneurship and the whole business idea, and I started making good money. But one of the things that I realized was I was going to be capped at somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000 a month from this company based off of the supply, the amount of homes that I could wholesale in my area, and the amount of time that I would have to put in, and the amount of effort. Now, maybe I was a little bit naive back then where I didn't really fully understand market potential and how to build a team and all of that. But for me, I felt like I was capped because it didn't seem scalable to me. There was a limit to what I could do, and there was a limit to the amount of hours I could put in, and there was a limit to how much money that I could make. And because of that, I stopped doing that business. But that's when I started really thinking about the scalable idea. Now, the internet has made this scalable possibility so much easier and so much simpler than before, because if you had a physical product, well, it was very hard to scale because you would have to open up more stores, or you'd have to keep paying for more and more products to get it into your wholesalers, and then you'd have to wait to get paid, and you had all these logistical issues. But now you can open up something on the internet. You have way lower costs to get started, and now you can keep your costs lower while your revenue can scale to pretty much infinity because there's no limit to how many people can buy a product on your online store, but there's a limit to how many people can buy a product at your physical store. At your physical store, you can only sell as many products as cashiers as you have at one time. On your online store, there's really no limit. Yeah, maybe you have to pay a little bit more money to handle the servers for more customers and more purchases, but you're going to be able to make way more money. Let me give you another personal example. Let me talk about Briefs Media, which is the company that I actively run. So Briefs Media is a newsletter company. The way it works is we have a content team that works to write newsletters, and then we have an ad team and a business development team that works to get advertisements, that produce the advertisements, and then we put this in the newsletter, and then this gets sent out through our newsletter software. So the more readers we have to pay, the higher our cost is because our servers are going to cost more money, and then we have to still produce the same newsletter. But sending the newsletter to, say, 5,000 people versus 100,000 people isn't that big of a cost difference, but the revenue potential is significantly more. Sure, maybe now we have to staff more people, we have to have a better business development team, that way now we can service our readers better, but marginally, our costs are going up, but our revenue can scale significantly faster. Same thing from 100,000 to 200,000 readers. Yeah, our costs might go up a little bit, but our revenue potential just doubled. And this is where now understanding that you can create a bigger and bigger gap if you have a company where now your revenue can scale faster than your expenses. And this is now where we go into the third thing that I talked about, which is revenue allocation. Because if you can build a company where you have this disproportionate growth between your revenue and your expenses, well, now you can have more and more margin. This is your margin. This margin is what's going to allow you to then scale to the $1 million mark or more, because now it's all about what do you do with this cash? What are you going to do with this money to help you get to wherever you want to go? Because what happens to so many people is they start seeing this type of growth. Maybe you made $100,000 worth of revenue and your expenses are $40,000. So you have $60,000 worth of margin, and people will say, whoa, 60 grand, let me take 40 grand for myself, or maybe all 60 grand, let me go get myself a new car, Let me go on a nice vacation. Let me start going to these nicer restaurants. But now your business is going to continue to grow at a slow and steady state because you don't have anything fueling the business. The other side is you have the $60,000 worth of margin, and now you take all 60 grand and you put it back into the business. That way you can accelerate the growth. You're putting fuel on the fire. You're running more advertisements. You're hiring more people. You're investing in more growth. That way now you can take your revenue higher while marginally increasing your expenses. You're taking this money, putting it here. That way you can increase your expenses. That way you can grow your revenue. Now, sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to do things wrong. But once you figure it out, you're going to be able to take this money, use it to increase your expenses. That way now you can disproportionately increase your revenue. If your mindset didn't hold you back from hitting that $1 million a year mark, this is the next place that holds back so many entrepreneurs from hitting the next revenue threshold or that profit threshold, because now you get excited by the cash you have in the bank, and instead of reinvesting it in the business, you start going out and buying nice cars, you start living big and having this nice stuff. That way now you can start enjoying the fruits of your labor. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be honest with yourself and understand, where do you want to go? Like for me, the first time my company made $1 million in a year, I took home about $20,000. I made less than every single one of the employees in my company, and I had a worse car than every single one of the employees in my company. Why? Because I was focused on this. I was focusing on putting every dollar I could back into the business, right? The resource allocation. I was putting every dollar I could back into the business. That way we can scale the costs, but also scale the revenue faster. It's a sacrifice because now you see the cash and you're putting it back in, and it's a risk because there's a chance your business can fail. There's a chance you're going to make a dumb decision. I have made bad decisions with the money. I have made bad investments, but that's how you learn. It's a part of real life tuition because most of us, myself included, never had any sort of business education. No one told me how to start a business, how to build a business, how to manage my money, how to do all this stuff. You have to learn as you go, and those mistakes are expensive. But those mistakes also teach you how to do it right. And this is where you have to make that decision for yourself. How are you going to start allocating that resource of your cash? The second resource you have is your time. And we talked a little bit earlier about working hard and how just because you work harder doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money. But this is where you have to understand now how you're going to allocate your time, because there's two resources that you can use to help grow your business, to help grow your revenue, to help grow whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's cash and time. Now, the more cash you invest back into the business should, in theory, help you grow. Unless you're putting the cash somewhere bad, unless you have that disease of too much money where you're just throwing money at problems without actually trying to fix them. I'm assuming now that you're using your cash in a good way to actually help scale your business. If that's the case, your cash will help you grow bigger, faster. Now, when it comes to your time, it works the same way. What are you doing with your time? Are you learning about business? Are you taking classes? You're hiring coaches? You're going through consulting? You're spending time learning about how to grow? Or are you spending more and more time watching Netflix, going golfing, doing a bunch of dumb things like trying to figure out the best office furniture? This is one of those things, oh my goodness, really frustrates me with smaller entrepreneurs, where you spend all your time, I want to start a YouTube channel, and now you're spending all this time trying to figure out the best camera, the best lighting equipment, should I get a studio? And now you want to invest thousands of dollars and hours and hours and hours of your time, if not days, if not weeks of your time, trying to find all the bells and whistles, when the thing that's the most important is the content that you put out. The thing that's most important is the product that you put out. The thing that's most important is the sales. It's not the website, it's not the logo, it's not the color that you have. You can worry about all that stuff later. Worry about that after you hit $1 million. But up until you get there, all you got to worry about is getting that $1 million. Forget what furniture you have, forget what equipment you have, forget about all that other stuff. First, hit that $1 million, and now take a little bit of time, now take a little bit of the cash, and invest in a nicer office. Get some nicer furniture. Get some nice branding and design work done. That way now you can start to look a little bit more professional. But the first thing that you have to do, the first thing you want to be putting your time and focus on is this. Not the color of your furniture, not the color of your website, not all that other stuff that people spend all this time on. Because that's just distracting you and holding you back from actually generating the revenue. First, make the money. First, make the revenue, and then start reinvesting back into it, that way we can grow faster. If you enjoyed this short clip from my longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, if you're interested in learning more about how to start generating passive income, our team put together an amazing guide on how to start generating passive income for free. All you gotta do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.